If you start from the point of observing that games are restricted and challenged, and if you want to go so far as to say censored, in a way that books are not, you might find yourself making a claim something like this: parents should stop all this ignorant censorship of games. And that might be your opinion. If you start from that opinion and try to work that into an academic paper, you're on shaky ground, and here's why. Because if you accept an argument like this, which is really based on my opinion about what somebody else should do, then you really also have to accept an argument like gamers should stop liking all these sexist and violent games. Now think about it. How persuasive is it going to be for someone to say you should stop doing that? That's an opinion, but it's not academic theory. A paper that starts with either of these premises is not going to continue with an academic, scholarly approach that uses facts and evidence to support claims. It's going to be ranting. What that does is if I take either of these two viewpoints, I'm enforcing my lens without bothering to research and understand and explore other viewpoints, and that promotes me as the source of truth and morals, which makes me no better than those I attack. So an academic argument can't begin with a simple claim that says, hey, you're wrong, you suck, I'm better than you are, listen to me. Here's some approaches that you can give. When authorities censor games, what kind of games are the prime targets? What reasons do the authorities give? What evidence do they cite? And if they publish some kind of document or give testimony before Congress, is there any evidence in that supporting documentation that these people have actually played the game they're talking about? Do the reasons that these authorities cite withstand objective scrutiny of the game? How do you measure violence? That's an interesting thing. We don't really have any sort of scientific study that puts, 10 kids in a room with loaded rifles and 10 kids in a room with loaded rifles and a video game and find out which situation causes kids to kill each other more. You can't do an experiment like that. You could measure kids' blood pressure before and after watching a game. You could find out what are the words that kids use, or how active are they, how many arguments do they get into. You can observe other things, and then you can make a claim that, for instance, after playing this particular game, children were 20% more likely to choose more aggressive gameplay styles. If you are a psychology major and you want to do something like that, hey, be my guest. What we're actually going to be focusing on in this class is the games themselves and our responses to the games themselves, rather than the kinds of effects that games have on people. Now, you are welcome, of course, as part of your investigation of games, to look into issues about violence and sexism and so forth in games. But my purpose in this talk is to give some examples about what theory can do for us. So theory helps me to identify the lens that I use, the way the lens affects my view of the outside world. And it helps me to see the strengths and the origins and the weaknesses of that lens. Theory helps me look for other lenses and to try them on, even if only for a little while. And it makes me, question my lens, test my lens, probe it for weaknesses and find out how has it changed over the years, where is it headed, and am I really satisfied with this lens? Now let's talk about a couple really big picture lenses, and you've heard of all of these approaches. You may not have thought of them as theories and lenses and viewpoints. The scientific method is a way of looking at the outside world. It took some people to come up with the idea and propose and argue for the idea that conducting experiments and observing the reactions to ways that you affect the world is the best way to understand the world. Another lens is religious faith. This doesn't mean that the scientific method and the religious faith are opposed. There are many different kinds of religious faith, just as there are many different kinds of sciences, and there are religious scientists and scientific religious people. So these are not, you can have more than one lens on at once. Another lens is religious indifference. It's a way of looking at the outside world. It's a way of choosing not to look through the lens of faith. And it's a lens, it's a theory, if you are resisting theory and asking yourselves, can't we just have fun with games? Well, of course we can, but that approach is itself a theory. Theories are lenses, and the rejection of theory is a kind of lens. The rejection of any particular lens implies an opposing corrective lens that's defined by the very lens that you reject. So, if there's something that you think doesn't work, if you think, looking at, always looking for instances of gender bias in literature or games or movies is stupid for these reasons, well, the reasons why you think it's stupid is formed, or they are formed by your understanding of this lens. So you're constructing in your head an anti-lens that shields you from having to deal with the issues that come up when you apply this particular lens. So dismissing something as only a theory misses the point of an intellectual life. Only a theory doesn't mean it's weak, it's pointless, it's stupid, it's abstract. It means we're not saying theory is something temporary or something that you only hold on to in the absence of facts. A theory is our way of looking at the world. And, I admit completely, this talk has been, limited, restricted, hampered, if you will, by the fact that my goal is to introduce you to theory. So I'm wearing a pro-theory lens that I'm using when I put together this talk. Okay, so a recap. The mirror is on me. And so I ask you, ask these questions. Did you like learning about critical theory? Do you have a favorite theoretical approach that you've applied into literature, to games, to life? Let's recap this window on the world. What does college intend to accomplish by asking students to encounter theory? And what can you learn about your own education from theory? Now, looking at theory as the lens through which you're seeing, you can ask, how does your exposure to your major's way of presenting advanced concepts, how does your major affect your approach to the intellectual life? How does it affect your concept of evidence, of truth, of right and wrong, of something that is worth exploring and something that's not worth exploring? How does that theoretical lens affect your approach to games? As you respond to today's lecture, I think these are some of the questions that I would like you to focus on. Be honest. Be candid. If theory is something that you're struggling with, if you're frustrated by it, or you still need some more examples, do your best in letting me know what you've taken from this presentation and how you construct the idea of theory in your own mind, and give it a shot. Try to theorize a game that you know well, and we'll talk about it on the class blog and on your own blogs, and we'll see where we go from there. Okay, thanks for listening to this lecture.